Okay, so I think we are live on Facebook. Hold on. Let me see if I can get you showing as well. Oh, right. Hold on. What's going on the other side? Live. Okay, I can't see you. Hold on. So let's see if this will do something. See you.
Yay!
So let's see. Yay, it's working now. Oh my gosh. Okay, can you see yourself, Amenti?
I can.
Okay, so what I'm gonna ask you to do is pay attention to the Zoom,
No problem.
because YouTube is not gonna make sense to you right now.
No
it's all a bit delayed and lagged. But let me make sure that I pull up my YouTube on my phone so that I can see what's happening there also. Bear with us, guys. We're still trying to get it together. I told you this technology game is not easy, you know. Hi to Rising. I'm so sorry we're late again. We've been having a lot of technical difficulties. The trying to get everything connected, and I'm not exactly the most techie savvy person, so I'm doing well nonetheless. But okay, let's see if everything's okay. Okay, the stream's good. Right. Okay, I guess we can kind of start. I just want to take a moment just to kind of, have you got your bowl, Amenti?
Yes.
Just to reset, because I'm just feeling all over the place. I can't even see you right now. Okay, I'm back on Zoom. If you can just for a moment, just use some bells to just set the energy again. I'm gonna light some Palo Santo, and we're just gonna set the intention that all who needs to receive what needs to be received, what they need to receive, what they will receive.
We ask that this conversation be lifted for the highest good of all those who listen, and we trust that it's safe and a sacred space to share. And we give thanks to all those who are in this sacred space with us in this time. Share. Yes.
I'm loving it. Oh my gosh. So welcome, guys, to the next segment of our little audition that we're doing at the moment. And I have an amazing guest with me today, Amenti the Oracle. I've known Amenti since 2015, is it?
Yeah.
Coming
out of 2014 to 2015.
Yeah. And so that was literally at the beginning of my the crux of my journey, and I think it's very it's very timely to just be having this conversation right now after the journey that we've kind of been through. So yeah, so I'm just going to allow you to kind of introduce yourself, and then we can introduce the topic, and then we can go into the topic of discussion and see how it goes.
That's great. Greetings to everybody that's tuned in, and thank you again, Sister Maitreya, for inviting me on this space. I am Amenti the Awakener, Amenti the Oracle. I am a holistic health and wellness consultant, I am a spiritual healer and teacher. My purpose is really about helping people to get in touch with their soul and turn their pain into their power. I specialize in helping people when they're in their transitionary period of their awakening and needing that support, that guidance to help them really stay cleaved to the truth of their soul while everything around them is breaking down. I've been awake since I was born. My early memories are of being in the womb, and I went through a wide range of experiences, from sexual abuse, spiritual abuse, different kinds of things, the same mother wounds. But my consciousness allowed me to be able to always see everything from my soul's perspective. So it was kind of like walking around as an alien who kind of knew everyone's story, knew what my story was, knew what we'd all chosen to play out together, but I couldn't act on that because I knew I had to go through it. It taught me a lot about unconditional love. And that's one of my greatest gifts, so to speak, that I give to myself and to others. And has really helped to prepare me to help people in the way that I do. So I'm an author as well of the book 12 Seeds to Awaken Your Spirit.
Amazing book.
Which is kind of like a workbook for everyone, you know, on whatever stage of your journey it is, because everything is cyclic. So as much as we feel like we've peeled off one layer, there are many layers to peel off. And basically it's a sharing and an offering, but a workbook which is structured in a way based on the understanding that each one of us is a star that's planted into the fertile seed of Mother Earth. And we're nurtured through the experiences that we go through to help us to peel off those layers, release our soul karma, and really allow our soul to elevate to the next vibrational dimensional experience, which is what people call 5D, that we're moving into. And really that's about learning to master the lower self and kind of conclude all of the lessons of the lower self so that we can live in the heart. And so everything that humanity is going through right now is kind of pushing us through a very, very quick crash course of clearing and mastering the lower self, reclaiming our innocence, because once you've dealt with your shadow, you reclaim your inner child, and that becomes the foundation of our love. So a lot of the struggles that we're going through some of them are karmic, because we've chosen to bring them in so that we could reach our soul's purpose in a quicker way, in a more powerful way. But also it's for us to really understand what it means to be not just human, but a divine being. There's been a focus so much on the 3D realm, the physical body, and a disconnection between our emotional, our mental, and our spiritual selves. And so that's why so many of us are going through these challenges, which are having to waken our communities, the collective consciousness, to now focus on those parts of our being. That's what will allow us to expand into this next level of experience that everyone's calling 5D. It's about being able to be connected to each other because we understand each other's story. We've been through the pain. We no longer have things like jealousy.
Oh, I'm hoping the connection's okay. We've just lost her for a moment. Amenti, can you hear me? Let me just call her quickly just to make sure. My internet is unstable. Yo, guys, literally, there's so much happening with this live right now. Like, I could not make this up. Okay. Yeah, my internet is going crazy. I know. Oh my gosh, we're still live, so we'll just wait for you to come back in. Okay. Yes. Yeah, definitely. I was just trying to share it out, but yeah, I'll come in. I'll see you guys. I'll see you on the other side. All right, cool. Okay, guys. So Amenti's coming back in. As I said, there's so much going on in the background right now in terms of this energy. Mercury has just gone into its shadow phase, so there's going to be a lot of kind of distortion in electronics, technology and all that kind of stuff, which is why I'm having some problems trying to get on. But oh, we've got Amenti back in just now, so hopefully there we go.
Hello.
Oh, okay. So I can't remember where you left off there, because I was literally just trying to sort out some stuff on the back end. But I just
basically saying that it's poignant that we are having this discussion at this time, because a lot of the things that people are going through are not uncommon. It's like there's a wave where, you know, we're going through this, and this is actually our gateway into our higher self and getting more closer to our soul, because we're having to break down the image of what we know to be who we are, because through our life we've had to create that based on our experiences in childhood and also the status quo. So it's, you know, can sometimes mean that breakdown is what's needed to break through all of those layers in order for you to get closer to your soul's calling. And that's what ascension is about. It's about moving into that higher self of your stage of yourself, but also gaining the lessons and the knowledge gained from the experiences.
And that's the thing as well, because we didn't just come here just to go through life and experience trauma and this the lower dimensional aspect of our being. We came here to experience life, and you know, it's all about us beginning to make that decision that we are going to embrace our experiences, no matter the polarity, whether it's, you know, it is lower dimensional, whether you're moving into higher dimensional, it is all a part of the whole, and all is necessary for us to be able to receive the necessary information. Every experience that we've gone through, even me myself, I've had to go through this process in myself of understanding that I'm not limited to the pain that I've experienced in my life. The pain was just a catalyst for me to be able to acknowledge a specific part in myself that I may not have acknowledged had that not happened.
Exactly. You wrote that into a story. That's what spirituality really allows. It allows you that objective perspective. Like once you realize that you've written all of this, it kind of gives you a sense of ownership, where you understand that if you've written it, there's everything within you to complete it. And also that you are not the story. That's what happens when we shift into the soul's perspective. And that is where the soul is, where is within the heart. That's where the seat of consciousness is. So as I said again, that's why we're having to go through those experiences, so that we get closer and closer to the truth. We've always known who we were. When we were a child, we knew what we loved to do. We had that kind of carefree energy, but we also chose to go through what we went through to achieve our soul's mission, not only just individually, but collectively, you know. And as you said, all of that information from every experience that we've gone through goes into the Akashic records. And that's why we also are able to bring in different, you know, tools, different gifts that will help us to navigate through this realm, and especially at this time, in a faster way than even our ancestors did. That's because of that energy that's needed for a renewal of cycle. It's kind of like you've got to clear out the end of the bin, you know, shake out all of the stuff from the bin, and then you can have a new cycle, a new age.
Definitely. Definitely. I love it. I just want to make a disclaimer out there first before we kind of move into the bulk of our topic. So in no way or form are we saying that as we go into our discussion, I know we haven't gone into it yet, but just before we go, we are going to be talking about a different perspective of how mental health can be perceived, and this would be spiritual awakening. Now, there is a distinction between the two, which we will be able to kind of go through in this live. But if you do feel that you have mental health conditions, and you feel that you resonate more with a more traditional form of therapy, whether psychotherapy or being able to take prescription medication, in no way are we going to deter you from being able to do that. If that's what you resonate with, that's okay. The reason for this live is to be able to present information to those who don't resonate with that system and feel like there's something deeper that's taking place within their lives, and they haven't been able to fully connect to that. So that's really who this live is for. And we're just hoping that people are open to what we have to present, because what we will be presenting is not only just information, we will be presenting life experiences. These are things that we've had to go through ourselves, and collectively together as well. You know, we've had some shared experiences which we will kind of tap into. So the topic of discussion is mental health versus spiritual awakening, and I was led to do this live, especially with Amenti, because some of you guys may know, I myself, I've gone through a process of healing my own mental health, but I've also been stigmatized by the mental health system by not being able to understand the type of condition I have, and whether identifying whether the way that I choose to be able to deal with my conditions is the most effective way for me. So, you know, this is, I was really prompted to do this because it's very, very close to my heart. For those who kind of want to have a bit of a back lay of my story, I've got a video right at the beginning of my channel where I was speaking on the BBC, on Victoria Derbyshire, about the stigmatization of mental health, especially within the Black community, and how a lot of people are being diagnosed with things such as two specific conditions: psychotic schizophrenia and what's the other one? Psychosis.
Yeah.
Psychosis. So those are the two main diagnoses that Black people normally get diagnosed with, and a lot of this is down to misunderstanding. A lot of this is down to prejudice, but a lot of this is down because we are trying to fit into a Western system that wasn't created for us. So we can't come. There's not going to be that type of There's not going to be a type of relation in that type of way anyway, but we'll go a bit more deeper into that. And I'm trying to think how to kind of go about this, because I feel like we need to go through the journey. But I'm like, where do we start?
It's always good to start at the beginning.
Yeah,
most definitely. And I think just giving a clear definition of what we mean by mental health, and also what we mean by spiritual awakening, because as much as, you know, they can be one and the same, everything is based on perspective, especially coming from a holistic health background. My focus is on helping people to be aware that your health, your overall health and well-being is dependent on more than just what you're eating or, you know, your body and going to the gym. There are other areas which directly contribute to you being able to have a happy and successful life. And mental health is one of those things. You have physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, mental health, and your lifestyle and environment. And so medicine is moving into a way where it's starting to understand how these aspects interrelate. But mental health is the one, as you said, which attracts the most stigma. And it's also where the one part that has so much effect on our lives as well, because, you know, once you are in a space of mental imbalance in whatever way, it could be just I'm having a bad day, or it could be just triggers. Your thoughts create your whole reality, and so therefore everything around you is directly affected by how you are thinking about things. So when we look at mental health, we're looking at the way that you think about things. We're looking at how you process also your emotions mentally. We're looking at how you cope with stress and how you cope with anxiety, and how you're able to process your thoughts, good or bad, because the nature of life is that you will have good and bad thoughts, you'll have good and bad days, but it's really about how you're able to manage that. And that's, you know, your mental health in a nutshell. When we're looking at spiritual awakening, we're looking at roots that enable people to be able to understand their life on a deeper level, beyond the mundane, which is getting up every day, working, physical, but looking for meaning in life. Now, for some people, they have a natural spiritual awakening, which comes from a curiosity. They might be affiliated with a certain religion or a spiritual practice. They might meditate. They might do it comes from a natural desire. But a spiritual emergency is where a catalyst takes place in somebody's life, which creates a series of events which leads them to start to understand their world and their reality from a different perspective. So for some of us, it's a natural thing, and at different stages it will be natural, but other stages, especially when it's something that the soul has really chosen to come in and deal with, it will be something that's going to be a catalyst. And that's necessary. That's the element of fire, which is needed to bring change. And also breaking down things. In order for you to get to the core, which is the true soul, which is the inner child, you have to break down all of the different masks that we have created. And sometimes, most of the times, that ends up with the breakdown through the mind of how you understand your reality and now how you understand yourself. So that's mental health, that's spiritual awakening, which is a natural occurrence, a natural curiosity, and then spiritual emergency, which is where series of catalysts of events spark some kind of healing process that now brings you to a different level of perspective. So yeah, maybe we want to talk about your experience with that.
Yeah, definitely. There was two things that kind of came to my head. Let me say this first and then I can go into my experience. But if anyone wants kind of a bit of a background kind of information about spiritual emergencies and mental health and stuff like that, there is an amazing documentary on Vimeo, Vimeo, if anyone knows that platform, and it's called Crazy Wise. And this goes into more indigenous types of practices like shamanism, and it goes to show how a lot of the things that can be classed as, you know, psychosis or schizophrenia, these are things that they do naturally and they see no problem with it.
Exactly.
You know, there's even things like anxiety. Anxiety is not a problem to them because for them it's a signal. It's something that they recognize their body is just trying to get a message to them and they need to pay attention. So the types of things that they see as mental health is not mental health, it's actually spiritual health.
Initiations.
It's initiation.
Your power. Yeah, because our whole growth and development has been suppressed. So where normally by the age of 33 we would have gone through so many different, you know, dark nights of the soul's initiations, you know, to help us understand who it is that we are and step into our purpose. Whereas now we've become so disconnected from our soul and from those cultural practices that allow us to access those parts of ourselves. That's why you're seeing so many people now interested in ayahuasca and plant medicines, because they help to unlock the subconscious mind so that you can get access to the soul, the soul's messages. And because we have become so disconnected, that's why we need to utilize these elements now in order to heal the mental health, because no pills is going to do that. All of the pills can suppress it, but also it's always good to get some kind of additional support so that you can talk through your stuff and really start to understand what it is.
Definitely. So I'll kind of go into a bit about my experience. So I had suffered with mental health from the age of 11. When I myself was going through my I had a historic sexual abuse case that I've only now in this process managed to close that door. So that was what invoked my depression. I just didn't understand what was taking place. I wasn't in a place where I could even speak. So I held in a lot of my trauma for a very long time. There was only specific people that I spoke to, and they actually broke my trust. And then I was like, who can I speak to? Couldn't even write it in a journal because people would find it and take it to school and start, you know, like outing me out and being like, oh, this happened to Naomi, da 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 da. And I'm like, wow, it's really that deep, you know? So that kind of created a very dark place for me. And then I grew up, and I noticed that I kept having these intense moments of depression, and they would come at specific periods. It's only now I'm an astrologer I understand what that is. I understand, okay, when specific retrogrades happen, this is what activates this, and so on and so forth. I'm like, okay, I'm aware that I go through this cycle every 2 years.
Exactly.
So this is something that was happening very intensely for me, but I just wasn't aware of any type of patterns or anything, because I was just in the feeling of the experience of pain. That's all I could experience at that time. So then I've mentioned before, I came from a very intensive Christian background, very cultish background. The church that I was at was basically like a Jehovah's Witness, but it just didn't have a denomination. But that exposed me to a lot. It exposed me to me even perceiving my reality as a prison, because I was so restricted. So that is something that would keep playing out in these cycles that I would go every 2 years. Why do I feel so trapped? But then I still want to be out. I didn't know what the hell was going on. So then I came to a point, left church, and no, before I left church, because I'd been on this journey from, I say my awakening really started 2012 when I hit 21. And this is the time that I was paralyzed. So this is when this is when I first started suffering from fibromyalgia. So my body completely shut down. I lost all my motor skills. I wasn't able to speak. I wasn't able to feed myself. I wasn't able to clothe myself. I wasn't able to do anything for myself. I was wheelchair bound. I was in hospital more than I was out of hospital, more than I was out of hospital. And that became my life. And it came to a point where it became so intense, and I was so frustrated with where I was at. Because I knew that I had so much I needed to do. The circumstances that I was in didn't match what was in my head. And that was creating such a dissonance. So I came into this fire part of myself that I'd never found. And I was like, I don't care. I'm not disabled, even though everyone's trying to say you're disabled. You need to accept the fact that this is happening to you, and your life is not going to be the same anymore. I'm like, that's what you say. I don't really care about that. I don't know about any of that. I just know that I got this to do. I got that to do. So my legs need to start working now. So I did that. And in that process, this is where I started to begin to walk again. It took me a very short, condensed process of time for me to actually fully rehabilitate myself to start walking. I still have mobility issues, but the fact that I'm not in a wheelchair, that is a big thing in itself. But the reason why I mentioned this is because that in itself, sickness, extreme life events, those are catalysts for awakening experiences, or what is also called a shamanic awakening, or shamanic initiation. Sorry, I meant to say. And that's exactly what was taking place with me, because these crazy life events, it's like I had to wake up. I had to see something further than what was physically being presented in front of me, because that couldn't make sense. So I had to make sense of what was taking place, and it caused me to dig deeper into my truth. And then it came to 2015 or 14, whenever I met you. And this was at the time when I finally decided to go to court and pursue the historic abuse case. And I was like, I myself knew I needed to do this for myself before I even thought about having a child. Charlotte wasn't even thought of. But I felt that my son was coming, and I needed to prepare my portal for him to be able to come. And in that short space of time of it was a few years, like 2-3 years, in that short space of time, I managed to consolidate a very accelerated process that when I initially came to Amenti, I was like, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. Like how a lot of people normally come to me. And it's almost like, this is how I sound, And she was able to guide me in a way that I needed at that time. there wasn't a lot of people that could speak to my spirit the way that she was able to speak to my spirit at that time. And then that all I needed was one conversation, and it lasted me until the next year.
That's it.
It lasted me until the next year, because I was like, boom, I'm motivated. I gotta go. And then I just remember hitting a place. I was just like, I don't know where to go. Where am I going though? Like, how do I get there? So I was like going through this whole oscillating process.
Exactly.
But then something just clicked in me, and it's like what I began to see, what I began to experience, it wouldn't make sense to the physical or the logical mind, or those who want to stay in one side of their mind. But it made sense to me. Every single layer of my experience is almost like I became aware of all my dimensions at one time.
Exactly.
Higher, lower, outer, like everything.
Exactly. That's exactly how it is.
Yeah.
You realize you're a multidimensional being.
Yeah.
Other people just don't get it, because you've got so many different layers of yourself existing at once. And without that understanding, it feels like your whole reality is imploding, and no one understands. No one can see what's going on.
You know what's funny? BBC just released a documentary, was it last month, for mental health awareness?
Okay.
And they were talking about psychosis. And there was this guy, he was a black guy, I think he's an actor, but he was speaking about his process of psychosis. Hearing back his experience, that was not psychosis. That was a spiritual awakening. And I'll tell you why. Because when he was speaking, it resonated with me. He was saying stuff like, I need to save the boy. I need to save the boy. These are things that he said that he was saying to himself, that he was hearing himself say, but he was also affirming out loud. He didn't know what that was at the time. In hindsight, he realized that boy was himself. Exactly. That boy was his inner child. Exactly. He didn't say this. These are the dots that I'm connecting. I'm like, I just wish I could just be like, yo, that's not psychosis. You are going through a massive transition, and you just need to be aware of this integration that's taking place, because this is you. This is you awakening to the essence of yourself. And these experiences are really, really powerful. But the difference between mental health and spiritual awakening, or those that may struggle with mental health, or those that may be transitioning into a spiritual awakening, those who have mental health may not be able to have the capacity to endure that process.
Definitely. And
because
you don't know what's going on. If you someone like it's the power of having the observer's perspective. So you can't, because when you're in it, you can't see it. But if you've got someone that can see it, then they can help navigate you through it. And it's not as hard. I'm not saying it's not hard, but it's just not as hard. You know?
Definitely. And yeah, that's something I became very, very aware of. But the reason why I mention that is because I myself, I was labeled as having psychotic schizophrenia. Now, there was nothing that I was exerting that was abnormal. It may be abnormal to someone who may not understand what it is or what realm it is that I exist on, because I've been existing in these realms for a while, and it's only now that I'm like becoming aware of all of them at the same time. You know, and I think this is where something like schizophrenia can come in, because or schizophrenia, because with you being such a multifaceted being, a multidimensional being, of course you're going to be a conduit of energy, or the energy will just be channeling through you left, right and center, and you may not be able to understand what it is that's channeling, or know how to be able to be like, actually no, you're not going to channel through me. You know, not many people
as well, your own subconscious personalities, because we have fragmented personalities. The masks that we wear, sometimes they just implode on us. So yeah,
exactly. And even Jim Carrey, he said that's what is a catalyst for depression. Exactly. Because you're trying to keep this mask on, and your soul's like, I can't deal with this mask. This mask was never created for me, and you're trying to make it fit. And I'm literally going to continue to almost take you through this purge until you realize that this mask is never going to fit.
Exactly.
And that's what that dark night of the soul is a catalyst for. So I want you to kind of like give like a bit of a backdrop about what the dark night, especially the difference between the dark night of the soul and the dark night of the spirit, and yeah, what that's all about.
Yeah, I mean, the dark night of the soul is a term that Eckhart Tolle talks about, and also Jung. So it is based on psychology, it's on principles of psychology. But it's the understanding that each person will go through. Well, at first, the original term was said that all mystics will go through certain breakdowns that they go through in their life, which are, as we said, spiritual awakenings. But they can seem to go on for such a long period of time. And that's the thing with the dark night of the soul. It's not just getting up and I feel bad. It's literally being trapped in a certain aspect of your reality, you know, of whatever is causing you to feel down or depressed. It might be feeling separate, having, you know, feeling alone, not feeling connected to the people that you're living with. It might be shame, it might be guilt, whatever it might be. It's that main trigger that puts you into a space of dealing with your shadow. And your shadow is where your power lies. Most of the people are afraid of their shadow, you know, we're afraid to go into those painful moments, but that's where the real power lies. And so the dark night of the soul is that sustained, you know, journey through your own darkness, and an opportunity for you to heal your soul's deepest wound.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And the reason why I mentioned that is because I believe that I had the two. I had the dark night of the soul initially when I went through this intense stage of my awakening. And the thing is, your awakening won't just happen in one time. Your awakening will happen in process. It will it's like there might be one thing that is an extreme catalyst, but if you look back, you'll realize how this process has been happening throughout your life.
Exactly.
And like, sorry, you was gonna say something?
No, yeah, exactly, because it's understanding that it's all happening for a reason. The soul's chosen to come and learn these lessons. So these dark nights of the souls are really opportunities to break down, as we said, all of those layers and really bring forth your soul lessons. So it can be quite traumatizing, you know, but it is also this shedding of layers that helps you to get closer to your inner child and your soul, your true divine self.
Definitely.
So sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, and I feel like that's what happened for me. So initially, like, I had the dark night of the soul, and then that's where I was actually sectioned by the mental health service for 7 weeks. But the reason why I'm going to bring this up, because it's important that I mention even the role that you had in this process, because this is important. And I think if people do not have what I had from Amenti at this time, if I didn't have what I had from Amenti at that time, I would not be here talking to you sane right now, because that's hella intense, you know. And sometimes you do need someone to assist you through the process. And for me, this process was very intense, because there was a lot of oppression that was coming external from myself that wasn't allowing me to actually embody the experience that I was going through. So it was very, very intense for me. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't. It wasn't. And because our realities literally intermingled in such a powerful way, that's all I can say. You do require somebody to, especially with what happened with you. I don't know what I would have wanted. I would have felt like if I'd gone through that and not had someone who had to understand. And it challenged me at times as well, as I said, because I'm zooming into a reality that you're living, and my soul is allowing me to share it with you. But you know what I mean? That's really intense in itself. Being able to explain it to people can be very difficult. But it's just the same thing that you say, having someone to support you through that journey.
Definitely, because so after I came out of after the first time I was sectioned, I was able to come to Amenti for a few days. And this was a process for me to be able to ground. That's all I needed. I just needed to ground, because I didn't have this whole, I wasn't even allowed out in the sun. I wasn't allowed outside. I was in this cage for 7 weeks, and you know, I just needed to have time to just come back to myself. And she was able to allow me to do that. you know, and she helped in energetic wise, just in terms of wisdom, just in terms of, okay, I understand this is going on, but you know what, let's channel it, go and write. And I think, how many pages did I write? I don't even know how many. I spent the whole day just writing. I don't even know how many pages. I think that was a book, and I haven't even read it back, but I know what I wrote was so intense. In terms of the embodiment of my identity that I was able to receive at that time, because that's when I changed my name.
Exactly.
That day.
And we were both going through that same experience of moving into our higher selves at that time. But what I think is interesting is if you just go back into the story a bit more and just talk about, you know, even what it was like for you in there, because I know from this side, because we hadn't met before then, we'd only engaged online, you know, and we were speaking whilst you was in the hospital and whatnot, sometimes spiritually and telepathically in each other's dreams, other times when we were able to speak. And you know, you were really in that space, you know, to people, let's call quote unquote normal, you would have seemed like you were somewhere else and lost. But it, you know, from my side, it was being able to still have that trust and faith to be able to be that anchor for that person, because at that moment when you're at your most vulnerable, and even if you don't understand it, just to have somebody who's like, okay, don't worry, you're not going crazy, even if they don't have the spiritual background, but just to be able to nurture you through that is so important, because what some of the things that I felt you and heard you go through broke my heart. You know what I mean? Even though I've had people around me that have gone through that, I was never able to see it and experience it firsthand. So I think it's beneficial to share with people, you know, your experience and what it felt like for you being in there.
That was the most soul-crushing experience I've ever had in my life, and I've had many soul-crushing experiences, but that, it was soul-crushing in the way that it crushed me all the way down, that Naomi could no longer be the same again.
Exactly.
Whether positively or negatively, you know?
Ashes.
Yes. I literally, and this is why I feel like I went through this process of even changing my name, because I felt that Naomi was no longer here.
Exactly.
Not in like, you know, like in a physical way, but I feel like the Naomi that was living up until this point. There's something in hypnosis, I think it's called hypnotic amnesia, where you go through a lot of trauma, and it's almost like you cannot take it anymore. So it's like your brain has to literally just have amnesia and forget experiences, just to be able for you to be able to go through the experience without breaking your head. And that's like a soul fragment in itself.
Exactly.
I'm still healing through my soul fragments, because so let me kind of go into like some of the stuff that actually took place. Now, initially this has started from a kind of family situation that kind of turned a bit crazy, and then out of the blue, police comes. No one, I didn't call, she didn't call, like, but obviously someone must have heard the commotion in an area that I'm not aware of. It's a very kind of white area, and police has just come in, kicked down the door, boom, you're coming with me, no questions. Where am I going? I didn't even have clothes on. I was, it took a lot for me to actually cover myself. They wouldn't even let me cover myself decently. Then they've shifted me to the first general hospital, where I was there for a good few days, but they begun torturing me from here. They wouldn't allow me to sleep. They deliberately kept me awake and they created scenarios that would make, if I repeated what took place in there, you'd think I've gone crazy, because why would something like that happen? Exactly. But these were situations that were created to deliberately trigger me. So to justify the actions of what they were trying to do, because without that, there was no evidence to say that there was anything wrong with me. But because of the situations that they kept creating, they tried to make me kill myself, commit suicide. They They literally had the whole hospital come and attack me to where the first 3 days of the second hospital I was in, was it 3 days? I think it was like 4 days. I wasn't even allowed to sleep in my room. I had to sleep in the reception, where in some little cot-up sofa thing. It wasn't very comfortable. And even when I did get to my room, I was given plastic duvets, a plastic duvet and a plastic pillow, where they were like, you make sure you keep this duvet over you. If you come up, then someone's going to come and kill you. These are the kind of things that they would say to me. So I'm in this place, this very, very dark place. And the reason why it's even darker for me is because, and this is why I went on to the Victoria Derbyshire show, because in terms of mental health, you can't actually assign someone other than your family to be able to deal with your case. That means even if you're estranged from them, even if you have an abusive family, they still have the right to be able to have authority over your care. Yes. So where I don't really mess with my family, and their perception of me is completely distorted. They haven't even seen me for years, but because they know I've gone through this transition, I must be crazy, you know? And it's something that they haven't been exposed to themselves. So anything that is foreign to their perception is going to be demonized. And I got demonized by everybody. I got demonized by the system. I got demonized by my family. I got demonized by the people that they know that they told the story to. So it was like the only person at that time, you know, like luckily my partner, I could speak to him at the time, but really Amenti was the only person I could speak to at that time that could actually affirm my truth, because everyone was trying to make out like I was crazy and that I had no truth and that I wasn't in my right mind to even affirm my truth, which was what the psychiatrist was doing. They were doing like almost like hypnotic techniques. I know this now because I'm studying hypnotherapy myself. I'm like, y'all are slick. Suggestions of like, you know, even I'm the first time I had the appointment with them, I'm like, they're like, okay, so what happened? I said, no, I was like, I know exactly what took place. Like, I can tell you from beginning to middle to end, everything straight through. They're telling me you don't know what happened because you're sick. So now you're putting it in my head that I'm sick and that I don't know what happened. Well, do you know what? I'm glad that I have my head on my head, because if I did not know my truth of who I am and the authority that I'm to stand in and my own sovereignty of my own self, I would have not been able to tell them throughout, even till today, no, I know my truth. Don't try and distort my truth. You can never repeat my truth because you wasn't there. You don't know. You haven't lived it. So, you know, this was like a constant battle that I've been going through to even next month is the first time I'm able to get discharged after 2 years of not having a mental health condition. You know, they injected me forcefully twice. That was not an injection, that was a tranquilizer. Because I don't believe that's against anyone's human's right to completely shut down their body like that. That's not normal. That's insane. I woke up from that not even knowing where the hell I was, just on a floor in a hospital, but on a plastic mattress on the floor.
So degrading as well, you know, that they would humiliate you in that way and still not have any regard. And that's what creates the stigma. Even if people are having issues where they don't know what's going on and they are having, you know, prolonged depression, or they've got voices, whatever it might be, you know, the system doesn't make it very easy for people to speak out about it. And what that does is it creates more of the imbalance, you know. So
do you know what, that even talking on that, because even just a bit of history in terms of mental health, I did actually go to them about 2 years prior, or maybe a year prior to this experience, and I was going through suicidal tendencies. I was ready to take my life, and I called them and I said, listen, this is what I'm feeling, you need to take me in. I called them. I went to the hospital. They sent me home.
I know what that feels like. I had a similar experience. Definitely. I was like, I've had enough. I clearly am not. I'm not getting it right. And they said, no, you're fine. It's okay. You just had your baby. You'll be all right, you know. And I wasn't all right. But what was happening was that my soul could no longer deal with the weight of living in a reality that wasn't true to who I was. And that's exactly it, you know. And that's why we go through these breakdowns and these experiences, so that we can get closer to that. Because even our stories, nothing happens without reason. And that's what I said to you the first time that we connected. I was like, there's a reason why we're speaking, because the sexual abuse, all of those things, I went through that. The mental imbalance, not hearing the voices in your head and trying to decide, okay, is that me, or is that, you know, realizing that it's my ego, realizing there's my ego, my higher self, you know, there's the shadow, there's all of these different parts, you know. And I researched every mental health condition going. And according to me, I had all of them, because that was just the way that my reality communicated with me. I could be any personality that I wanted to be. Whose soul is communicating with them. Do you know what I mean? And it's just being able to get that support to understand your pain and what it is that you're going through, and help you to process that. Because the emotions and the mind are so heavily linked that most of the time, what we feel is based on the past, but it's still having power over us in the present. And that's where we need someone to kind of just give us an objective view and help us get ourselves together.
And let me even touch on that in itself. If there's any, because again, there's this stigma over both spiritual awakening and mental health, because people don't really understand what it is. And I just, to anyone who watches this live, please be aware of this, because especially as Black people, we're too quick to label people and be like, oh, that person's crazy, or whatever, because we don't understand. This is not actually our natural way of thinking. Okay? We are that's a Western way of thinking, and because we're here, we're just, you know, integrating into that. But please be aware that if you see someone who's demonstrating any type of behaviors that you may not understand, try to understand rather than judge first. Like, try to ask questions. We don't ask questions anymore, you know. It just is. And you know, you can be so sure in your judgment of how you perceive something. You can go on the road and see like a person naked on walking naked on the road, and automatically assume, oh, that person's mad. There's something about bipolar that's really interesting to me, because you've got the different classes of bipolar. You've got the bipolar where you can have the high, and this person's just walking around and they're just like, actually, life is amazing. I can see the beauty in everything. Like, you're beautiful, the sky's beautiful, the water's beautiful. That can be passed as like a high extreme of bipolar.
Manic,
I don't see that as negative, but that is not normal in the eyes of society, because society wants order. You know, when the universe, spirit, it operates off chaos. We're the one who wants the order. The order doesn't work in the universe.
One and the same energy. All the same energy, you know. You're right.
Definitely. So I just want people to really, really be aware of that in itself. And this is something that we're going to be going really, really in depth with. This is just like a skim episode, just to almost introduce the topic, because I think this is something that we have to do a series on, because I'm also seeing a lot of other people going through these experiences similar to myself, maybe not getting locked up or anything, but they're still experiencing these types of deep psychological experiences. Sorry, you're going to say something?
Yeah, I was going to say that even just the time that we're in, that people have to work, they're stressed about bills, the fear is amplified. Like, I've seen, and I've experienced myself, when a letter comes through the door, and just those words in that letter just put you in panic for God knows how many months. You don't want to open your, you know, all of these things are triggered towards putting us in a place of fear. So the reason why mental health is so important right now is because we have to learn to be aware of it. We have to learn to control our own reality, so that we're not constantly being triggered by everything. And so as much as I said, we look at things as being negative, nothing in the universe is without purpose. So from that chaos of that breakdown or that imbalance, you're able to now gain the tools that you need to not only master your mind, but be able to now experience, you know, your reality from a completely different level. One of the most frustrating things in the world can be to be in a cycle of continuing the same patterns over and over and over and over again. And that's what happens when we don't seek help and we don't speak out. One of the things that we'll talk about in the series is also post-traumatic stress syndrome and epigenetics, because that has what has been, that's been the tools that have kind of regurgitated some of the past slavery mentalities. And that's not just about a black or white thing, because even to be able to live in a divide like that, there are obviously going to be those on either side who go against the status quo, and that's going to have an effect on them as well. So it's really about understanding how these past traumas then become generational curses that we have to clear. Now, us as souls, especially starseeds, light workers, whatever you want to call it, we've chosen to come in to clear a lot of those things, to illuminate our being. So we have to have that breakdown so that we can start raising people's awareness to the fact that we are all connected. We have all been through the same things, and let's spare each other, you know, the crap, and let's nurture each other. Let's love each other. For me, one of the main things that I have to offer people is nurturing the soul for whatever it is that you're going through, because there are going to be times when we don't understand what's going on. You know, healing is about nurturing. It's about being able to support and comfort someone enough to help them work out what it is that they're going through. I'm not saying that I always have the answers. My gift is to be able to see your soul. So from your soul, I'm able to help you to understand what it is that you're here to learn. And then with the past life, with the regression therapy and hypnosis, I learned that from a psychology background. So it's all about helping you to understand how to access the traumas, but not only the traumas, how to access your ability to create your reality. Because once you release the suppressions and the limitations which are attached to the stories, you can now use your mind as a great tool to really create the life that you're supposed to have. And so without us going through those breakdowns, we won't uncover these sacred gifts.
And a breakdown in itself is not just a breakdown. Like a breakdown is a breakthrough. And this is what people don't actually understand, because now whenever I hit that breakdown place, I subconsciously start celebrating myself.
Exactly.
Because I know I'm in the middle of the biggest transition of my life, like even right now. So just off the back of what you was kind of speaking about before, I meant to bring it back up. But the reason why the mental health thing was really, really intensely damaging is because the month after I came out, I conceived my child. I now was pregnant, dealing with antenatal and postnatal depression and not able to say it because of my fear of, are they going to take my child? Are they going to lock me back up? Will I even make it out if I go back in there again? Will I actually make it out alive? Because that's how real these experiences was. I was at threat for my life. So how do you actually trust a system again that's actually damaged you that much? Remember, the year before that, or the year before, I was ready to go to them and be like, actually, I need some help.
But that was the lesson that taught me that yes, people are going to go through it, but we need a different way of healing. You know, and that's what's activated your purpose, and that's what helped to activate mine. You know, and this is not just a me and you because we're special. No. This is the wave that's bringing in this, so it becomes a new normal. So that we understand how to look after ourselves and live from our highest, you know, our highest values, and love each other a bit more. You know, love is the most powerful healer, whether you understand what someone's going through or not. Just being able to look at someone and saying, you know what, whatever you're going through, it's all good, man. Just be in the moment, just be present. And that's what we need to learn to do. Be there for each other a bit more.
Be there without judgment.
See each other, most definitely. I see you. That's it.
As you are.
Exactly. I mean, that's what I've been noticing recently. Ever since I've come back from Africa, which was in February or March, I've just noticed that my spirit has been calling me to check in on those people who are the pillars, so to speak, in their little communities. And I'm finding that when I see them, I'm seeing what it is that they need a hug, that they need replenishment. You know, people don't see each other. They can see what they can get, or they see just enough that doesn't reflect to them their own stuff. But we need to start seeing each other, because then we'll see that we all go through the same things in similar ways, and that what you have, I might not have, but what you don't have, you know, and that's where we're moving to, that level of unity consciousness. But as we said, we've got to break down the illusion of pain and suffering. And the only way that we're going to do that is by going through it and coming out on the other side.
What's it? Pain is just an indication that something is wrong and you need to pay attention to.
Exactly.
That's how your body sends messages. So the same with emotional trauma. Something's wrong, you need to deal with it. Like, but when we feel the trauma, it's like, this is something I have to sit with
or suppress.
Or suppress.
And it's funny because with the holistic therapy, we look at, as I said before, we're looking at how they're all interlinked, your mental, emotional, spiritual. You manifesting the fibromyalgia was directly related to you suppressing your emotional trauma in your energetic body, in your emotional body. And so as much as people think it's not real, it is real. So much to the point where the doctors are testing you and they're saying, well, there's nothing we can do, or we don't really understand this condition, but you're going through real life trauma. And what I've been, you know, and it happens, but what I can see as a great signal of change is that with your situation, you were able to get out of it. I was able to, you know, support you. And also it was more than just support. It's a soul contract, because there were things that happened and shifted in me as well. But also even, you know, like, as you know, with what's been happening within my realm lately, and me being there for other people, I've been doing the healing in hospitals now and showing the doctors, they're seeing how both of these medicines, the traditional medicine, the vibrational medicine, is all working hand in hand. So without those traumatic situations, we wouldn't get to the point where we now give birth to new ways of dealing with our pain until it gets to a point where it's no longer an issue. You went through what you went through so that you can be on this platform now, and all of those who are listening cannot feel so, you know, alone. And that's why we're going through it. So when you understand that, you think, okay, cool, I can do that. I can get on with it. No
worries. No, it's very, very real, because your pain is literally the catalyst to your life path.
Exactly.
Because that's how you get to understand, what is it that I'm really gifted at? Exactly. What is it that I'm actually talented at? What is it that, you know, these experience, it pushes you to a place to question, and that's the most beautiful place to be. Exactly. Where you can actually question and be like, what's more out there for me?
It aligns you with your soul. And that's how, if we were in our indigenous communities, that's how we would be nurtured. The elders will look at us and see how we play with certain things. And they say, oh, he's a carpenter, or oh, he's a singer. Not because of, you know, just imposing a role on them for monetary value. It's being able to see their natural qualities and gifts and nurture that. And that's what we get from living in our soul. This Western society, as much as we're thankful that it served us an experience, you know, we're moving out of that now. And so it means that we have to be more connected, but we also have to be more loving and forgiving of each other. We have to understand that every single human on this planet has been through some kind of trauma. And so the more that we just wipe the slate clean, deal with our own stuff, and love up on each other and allow each other a bit more, we'll see what love truly means, and our world will become better. But it starts with, you know, us having to go through it. Each black sheep is really a golden cow in disguise. You know?
Or a black unicorn.
Well, black unicorn, hello.
And you know what? That's funny, because that's the archetype that came to me whilst I was being sectioned and in the middle of the glitch, because I didn't understand it at the time, but I'd actually bought like this journal, and it had a unicorn on the front of it, and I was like, what is the purpose of a unicorn? And then I was like, oh, mental projection, like just being able to project your reality in itself.
Exactly.
And
they heal, you know, the heart. They poke their horns into your heart and are able to release trauma. And that again. Sorry, go on.
It's beautiful. So, like, as I said, this will be a series, and I even feel like to topic specifically on clearing ancestral trauma in itself, because that is a massive
definitely
thing. That may even have to have sections.
Even in my book as well, there's a whole section in there on that, you know, turning your pain into your power. And that was my process of really understanding on a conscious level, because I understood on a soul level why I'd gone through the sexual abuse, but really why on a collective conscious level, why so many of us are doing so. And I did a transmission the other day, which was specifically for us who have manifested into these bodies of African descent, because there's a need for us to really be present with our own truth and our own healing, so that we can readdress the balance. It's not going to come from outside of us. It's going to come from us really awakening to our own greatness, you know. And so, yeah, I'm I don't know. I'm excited about what's happening for us as a collective, you know. But we're having to do the work that's necessary so that we can really reclaim our divine position within our own reality and within our own heart. So
divine
I just want people to know as well that when you can have insight and awareness on something, then it makes it easier to deal with. And so whenever you feel like you're in a space of confusion, seek help, but seek it mentally first and with your heart. Like, ask your heart to guide you to the right person that's going to help you in that moment. But understand that we all do need each other. We all do need that love and support, you know, from each other.
But even with that in itself, we all do need love and we do need support. But what I will encourage you to do is not like, we all have access to help, but don't use it as a supplement for you not being able to attempting to find answers yourself. So before you reach out, always try to get some answers first. Because at the end of the day, if you come to any one of us or any other reader or whatever they do in terms of you them being able to assist you, they're only going to redirect you back to you.
Exactly.
And they're only going to repeat back to you what you already know.
Some people don't want to hear it. I've had people who come, they're like, yeah, I'm ready. And I repeat something to them. They're acting like they've heard it for the first time, and then they want to get angry with you. But I mean, that can't work, just because it means that you're not ready to deal with it yet. But it's okay. It's okay. We've got work to do, you know, but the work is the journey. It's not all about trying to get to the end and be perfect. You're already perfect, but you've chosen to come and have this experience. So
the experience.
Once you're aware of it, then you realize why you're doing it. So
definitely. Well, we're gonna come into our little concluding thoughts.
Yes.
Is that the word?
Yeah.
I'm learning, guys. So I mean, you've given some kind of tips, but what would be your kind of leaving thoughts on this first episode that we've done today?
Yeah, I mean, today was really, as we said, about just putting out there the idea of what it is, you know, why mental health is important, and also spiritual awakening. And I just feel like it's an important discussion. So I would encourage people to just start reflecting on their own experiences. You can gain so much from just, you know, you reflecting on your own experiences. Sometimes we have things that go on in our lives that create things, you know, catalysts, as we've spoken about. But sometimes just asking yourself questions, getting a journal and starting to have that self-dialogue can be a really powerful tool, because most of the things that you're afraid of, they lurk inside. But once you meet them head on, especially with the pen, like the pen is my most powerful gift. Once you're able to transfer that energy outside of yourself, you're able to get a clearer perspective. So don't be afraid to, you know, inquire within, because that's where it starts. That's the first thing that I would say. And investigate what mental health is for you, and look at some of the areas where you might be lagging. You know, it might be just, okay, I want to do meditation, or maybe I think in a very negative way. You can make a quick change to say, okay, tomorrow I will make I'll make a decision to try and think more positively. And every time I have a negative thought, I'll transform it. Now, that's something simple that you can do, but it has a powerful and lasting effect, because every time you think that negative thought, you're now going to think, oh, sugar, I need to think something positive. And so everything is always about consciousness and awareness, being aware of what's going on, and then you can make the changes.
And that's really not cliche, because this is like, because sometimes we'll be like, oh, you know, You always kind of hear that, but no, it actually is real. Like it isn't an easy process to initially get, because more time the negative thought overpowers your positive thought. But what you're doing is training yourself to get in the middle, to be aware quicker and quicker and quicker. You know, your time response becomes even quicker every time you pay attention. So it's just bringing yourself into a routine, a routine of self-awareness. You know, in self-awareness, everything is in self-awareness. Everything is the self and reflection of the self.
Exactly. And when people talk about consciousness or being woke, that's what it really is. It's about being aware. Making choices where you think about what you're doing rather than just doing it. And that's the beginning. It's about really just being aware and using the tool of self-reflection, asking yourself questions. How do I really feel about this? Because ultimately you're peeling at all of the layers and getting closer to your soul. And your soul is where the truth is at. That's the real you that's been, you know, bubbling and trying to get out for so long. So
definitely. Thank you for that. That's really, really beautiful. There's nothing else I can really add to that. But I just want to thank you again for just joining me on this platform and even on this topic, because it's so, so important, and it's helping me even get my voice out in itself. Like, guys, if you know, like I'm literally throwing myself out there, even starting this platform, because I'm not extremely confident, and I'm still healing through my own fragments of my experience. This experience wasn't very long ago, and I've just had a baby. I'm still trying to integrate into self, but I realized that if I keep myself back, I'm never going to go anywhere. So, you know, like with all the glitches and stuff that we're going through, again, I ask you just to bear with me as I'm on this journey as well. This is another separate journey from my own journey. And I started in this not knowing anything at all. So, you know, sorry?
I just want to say well done.
Thank you.
As well for everything that you are doing and creating the space for your own healing, but also the healing of others, you know. As you know as well, with me, the journey doesn't stop, you know, and so to see, I'm inspired by you as well, that it's never a one-way thing. So I just want to say well done to you. Thank you to everybody as well for welcoming me into the space, and for everyone who's going to watch the video afterwards.
Definitely. So if you just let them know where we can find you, what you do, what you've got coming up, what you've got already with your book and stuff. So
okay, cool. So Amenti the Awakener. I am on Instagram, Amenti the Awakener. So I put out loads of daily posts, soul wisdom, and I share lots of my own journey and experience on there. I share a lot of my poetry as well, which is the way that my soul speaks. So you can find my stuff on Instagram. I have my own YouTube channel as well, Amenti the Awakener, which I'm building as well. Everything goes through its rebirth. So there's that. My website is amentitheawakenerofficial.co.uk. That's amentitheawakenerofficial.co.uk. And I'm available for mentoring. So I'm specializing in mentoring those who are wanting to step into their spiritual purpose, or those who are have been through any kind of sexual abuse or trauma, or those who are professionals, healers, yoga teachers, whatever, who want to master their craft and really do their own continual self-development. Because I've found that sometimes we can get lost in an image of trying to help others, where we kind of, you know, don't work on our own
this space.
Yeah, and sometimes we all need somebody to help us get to that next level. I work a lot with a lot of celebrity clients doing that kind of work as well, and just helping people around self-mastery. I'm open to everyone, everything from hypnotherapy, past life regression, massage, everything. But really, it's just about helping to nurture you through your awakening in whatever way that might be. I'm an initiated priestess, so I help people with rituals and alchemy. But I always say with everything, it starts with the self-mastery first. My book, 12 Seeds to Awaken Your Spirit, is available on Amazon.
It's thick, guys.
It is over 490 pages long. However, I've had grannies reading it. I've got my children reading it, and it is a lifetime book, because Spirit said to me to create a tool that encapsulated everything that I learned before I got to my 33rd year. And I wrote that book within a month, and it's just something that just continues to grow. And so some of the things that we've talked about today, in that book, it gives you the structure to be able to start asking yourself the questions, to start doing the journaling, you know, and so that's available. And I mentor people through that process as well. We've got loads of things coming up, retreats. We're going to Egypt, we're going to Ethiopia, we're doing loads of different things. Yeah, so, yeah, get involved. But Sister Maitreya as well, you know, she's doing amazing things as well. And we kind of share in the similar energies, but we also have our own stuff going on as well. I do a lot of training as well in Reiki, all different kinds of things. So yeah, just send me a message at amentitheawakenerofficial@gmail.com. That's amentitheawakenerofficial@gmail.com.
Definitely. Thank you. And as per usual, you can find me at www.soul-reconnection.com. And this is where I can offer you some natal chart readings just to help you be able to understand the inner dimensions of self. You know, this is something that we don't really have any understanding of. It's sometimes a lot of it is unconscious, and you just need someone to kind of bring it more into your conscious mind. So this helps you to be able to understand how these things relate directly to you in a personal way, and how you can be able to activate it on a very real level. So if you need that assistance, you can go, as I said, to www.soul-reconnection.com. And as per, when will be our next live on this? We didn't actually put down a date.
Well, hopefully this time next week, but we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm down.
Make sure you guys are on the socials. So make sure you're following at Soul Reconnection on Instagram and Soul-Reconnection on Facebook, so that you can actually get the notifications of what's going on. Please make sure you've liked and subscribed to the YouTube channel and press the notification button so that you can actually get notifications of when I do go live, and you can join in the conversation this way. So again, I just want to say thank you. And we actually got our YouTube finally up, like streaming after all the times that we've not been able to do it. But you know what? Universe works in its own unique ways, and I'm grateful nonetheless. So I just want to thank you guys for joining again, and we'll see you hopefully this time next week. You'll definitely get any videos anyway, but we'll definitely let you guys know when this will be. Okay, so thank you, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.